As far as pick the location, could you just summarize that, the last part of that again?
Well, I just know in other applications I've seen in the past is they pick to locations, not to SKU names, because once pickers start to remember the SKU names, they just automatically go to a spot, and it may encourage bad behaviors. If you pick to a location, they don't really know what they're looking for. They just go to the spot and pick what they're supposed to do.
I guess I would rather doubt that we would do that. I mean, it's obviously an easy thing to do since we know the location. One of the other things that I've seen the third-party packages do as far as voice pick confirmation, they don't want to ask them for the product number because these fellows will, of course, remember all the numbers, so that's not very good. But they'll have them recite, for example, the last 4 digits of the barcode. And maybe do that in reverse order. So they do that kind of confirmation of the piece too. I mean, if there was a real need to pick by location the way you described, certainly could do that. One of the options, I think I noted it earlier as far as the tablet goes, I mean, I like voice pick. I worked with this quite a lot. It seems to be really accurate. It's not too annoying. I'm fairly pleased with the result and the recognition and the text-to-speech, but the real advantage is getting the metrics and avoiding the mispicks. And it's an expensive kind of thing to do. And once you buy a handheld, a headset, and a ring scanner, you're talking a fair amount of money per unit per worker in the warehouse. And you also have the language issues, you have the early adoption issues. I mean, do your pickers really want to be wearing a headset? How happy are they going to be to move to this technology? Whereas if you just give them an electronic pick list, it's just a tablet that's just fastened on the forklift, we get all the advantages as far as the metrics go and the mispicks. We can either scan or show them a great big picture of what they're supposed to be picking and big words on there that say where the location is, things like that. Tablets are a lot cheaper, generally, and there are fewer points of failure now. You don't have to worry about the headset failing, you don't have to worry about the Bluetooth scanner failing. It just seems like it's an appropriate option, I think, in some circumstances to do that. Of course, you could use voice pick with a tablet and a headset with a tablet just as well as I'm doing with the device. Were there any other questions about the kind of voice pick side of things? As you can see, it's a very simple application. There's not a lot to it. It's really easy to, it was an easy application to write. So if there aren't any questions on that, what I'm going to do is we're going to toggle back to the back end and see what we're doing in EOStar now to support this application that I just showed you on the handheld. By the way, that application, I'll make 2 more notes before we do that, kind of important things. One is it works through the web service just like a normal, one of our normal handhelds. It's just a different set of methods that it calls when it wants to get work, and when it wants to post back some results that it picked an item. Or if it wants to actually print something at the end. I didn't proceed all the way through the demonstration, but once the palette is actually complete, that's where it will say, okay, do you want to print some labels for the palette and things like that. And those are just web service calls to say print that out at a particular printer in the warehouse. Well, the web service requires connectivity. And that means that you're going to have wireless access throughout the warehouse, at least at one point in time when you're doing voice pick. And that is at the point where you're actually getting the work. You don't need any connectivity at any other point in the application, because once we've kind of got the work to do, we know what they're supposed to pick, and it just directs them through that. As it tries to post results back, if there's no connection, they happen to be in the cooler getting a keg or something, it just queues those connections up and sends them at the next available time, so that we don't have any kinds of problems with connectivity, except you need it whenever they're actually out there saying get work. If you say get work and there's no connection, it's just going to say, yeah, sorry, try again. And that's the best we can do with that. But that's an important point to keep in mind. Go ahead, Marshall, and pull up EOStar. You want to step through all this?
Sure.
On the back end, I'll let you take my chair.
Okay. I'm Marshall, by the way. I've done a lot of work here developing this back-end part of this voice pick and WMS work. So there's a couple different sort of conceptual components or phases that we need to cover to make this one big integrated system. The first is we need to collect a lot of data, and that data means information about item dimensions and weight, information about truck sizes and what can go on a truck. We need to then actually make pallets out of your orders that have gone through orders to loads, and we need to assemble all that up. Then once we've got it, we need to communicate with that handheld app you just saw and figure out, well, who should we assign to go pick what? You know, how are we going to split up all these pallets we've got among all the employees that are standing out there in the warehouse? And then we listen to the handheld and we say, okay, well, let's see, we got this back from this guy, he picked it. Oh, this guy said this product was out of stock, we want to notify the guy running EOStar, stuff like that. So we've got the communication back and forth. And then finally, once the pick session is sort of all done and everything's been picked, we want to give you some interesting reports and feedback and metrics that you can run to look and see at how your different employees did, and see if maybe you can reorganize stuff or improve the process somehow based on all the data we gathered about what happened. So I'll sort of point out to you the different stuff we do to handle those different parts of the process in order, keeping in mind that some parts of the process are sort of half complete right now because we're still working on this very actively, but some are very well complete, and we'll see what you think. One of the things that we've been working on just recently is trucks. We're going to set up now, have truck configurations for the trailer, and we're going to store a lot more information about the trucks than we did before. Here you can see this, right now we don't have everything in yet. We're going to store things like how much the total weight capacity of the truck is. We're going to have different types of trucks, like, alright, this one's a rear loader, this one's a side loader, whatever other different types it turns out we need. And then we're going to have a more elaborate configuration for defining the dimensions of all the different bays on the truck. You know, oh, it's got all these bays and they can fit 2 pallets high, and then the front bay is short because there's a wheel there and there's 13 bays on each side, that sort of thing, right? So once we've got all that information in here, then we'll be able to do a good job letting you move stuff around on trucks, you know, being able to tell when maybe you should move stuff from this pallet to that pallet because of truck loading problems, that kind of thing. So we're integrating that. We've got a lot of work to do on the palletizing end once we've got all this kind of data about dimensions. And as Kent mentioned in that PowerPoint, for a lot of that work we're relying on a third-party solution called Blackbox to do sort of the grunt work of saying, alright, we have 10 orders for this route, they've got all these products, we want to maybe put 1 order on each pallet, so what are the pallets going to look like? And that's based on maybe a whole lot of criteria like what's the pick sequence of the products, which products weigh a lot, which are really light, you know, like which are big cases and which are little loose things, how much can each pallet hold, that sort of thing. So rather than try and re-implement all that for ourselves right away, we're being helped out by this third-party solution from a company called Magic Logic, who are experts on the palletization part of it, but it integrates seamlessly with EOStar. So the perception in EOStar, and I'll show you right now, you'll pull up some orders in a screen that won't look quite like this, but it'll show you the same kind of information. Okay, here's a bunch of pending orders that you've got that are awaiting picking, and then you'll hit a button and it'll turn all those into pallets. So once those have been turned into pallets, you'll see them in here. And this is sort of the big mothership area for all the WMS information about the picking that is either happening right now or is about to be happening. So here you'll see all the different pallets that have been palletized based on the orders that are in your system right now, all the items on them, the order that they're in, that sort of thing. And right now we're still working on the rearrangement part of getting the pallet set up. You know, what happens if you want to take stuff on from this pallet and put it on this pallet. that will be all right here when we do it probably, through a series of sort of configuration screens where you can move stuff around. So once you've got all these different pallets worth of items over here, then you have to think about who's going to actually be picking the pallets. We have an employee setup screen over here where you can set up different pickers based on the employees in your EOSTAR system. So here are a bunch of employees. Here are their PIN numbers. That's how they log into the handheld, if you recall. When you first start the handheld app up, it'll ask you for a PIN, so here's how those map to people. Here are those handheld settings you saw. So you'll set those up, and then once you have, they'll show up in this list right here. And this is a list of all those different employees, and whether they're online or offline. If it's online, it means that they're running that handheld app and they're sort of sitting there on that get work screen, waiting for something to come in. So those are the people who we think, all right, we should try and assign pallets to these guys because they're waiting to pick something. And as you'll probably see in a moment, once these guys actually have pallets assigned to them, then those will show up here too. So the idea is that the operator sitting here looking at this screen probably wants some control over what pallets are assigned to what employees sometimes, but he doesn't always want to have to assign everything by himself, because really it's a very straightforward process from what we can tell. You've got a lot of available things that need picking, and you've got a lot of employees ready to pick them, so you just keep giving things to employees. Every time an employee finishes with their stuff, you give them some more until everything's done. So that's sort of the model that we've made here. What you would do, oh, and by the way, at the start of the night when you're ready to pick, you'll pick the warehouse and time up here, and then you'll sort of hit start. And that sort of locks you into, okay, I'm picking for today. And if other people, for whatever reason, wanted to come in here and look at this screen too and see how things were going, then they would be able to log on to their computers, open EOSTAR, and see the same thing you're seeing for tonight's pick session. So the way that you assign stuff to be picked by employees is, I'll take a bunch of these, I'll move them over to this side of the screen. This is pallets to be processed, meaning they're sort of sitting out there, they're pending. We could assign them to pickers if we wanted, and this is pallets to be dispatched, meaning that, okay, these pallets, someone looked at them, we decided, yeah, this is really what we want to put on these pallets. This is the truck they're going on, everything's great, so now we want to give them to employees. You'll notice that those ones just disappeared off that list, and the reason why they did is because they got automatically assigned to some of our online employees. So if you look down here, there were 5 pallets, and 5 different employees now have a pallet to pick that you can see here. And if you look here at the little detail screen right here, you can see all the things that are on the pallet and all kinds of other information. Now right now, obviously we don't have an army of pickers sitting out here outside our door right now doing this, but I've got sort of a test application running that will automatically pick some of this stuff for us just so we can see how it looks as it goes through. If you look, for example, at this guy right here, you can see that it's already picked some stuff for him. So it was assigned at 4:16 just a minute ago. Now he started it, and he's got 3 cases so far picked out of 15 total. And here you can see what he's doing. Some of our pickers in our test application aren't very good, and they short pick a lot of things.